My name is Danny Marty Ray, and before I jumped into the world of podcasting, I tried my hand at being in a punk rock band. We did okay, but a few years down the line, I bumped into Jarrett Reddick, frontman of multi-platinum selling band Bowling for Soup, and one of the scene legends who really has been there, done the thing, and got the t-shirt. Together, we decided to launch the kind of resource that we wished we'd had growing up. This is your resource now, and this is our podcast. Welcome to Music Networking 101. Hey guys, what's up? Welcome to Music Networking 101, the inaugural episodes. Very first time that we're doing this, so absolutely stoked to be getting it launching. Hope everyone's having a good evening. How are you, Jarrett?
I'm good. We're really doing it. We're really doing it.
Yeah, it's insane. Yeah, no,
Yeah,
I'm stoked.
we've been talking about this for quite some time, and then you guys went on tour, and I got busy, and now here we are, finally getting this thing off the ground. So sorry for. So I'll apologize to the audience as well for being late today. My son got into a bit of a baseball battle today. We ended up going an extra inning, and they ended up doing the unthinkable by tying the undefeated team in their league today. So it puts them up into about second place, which is great.
That's awesome news. We like miracles.
Yeah, and I felt good about saying that they tied because you're in the UK, and to you guys, a draw is almost as good as a win.
Absolutely.
Yeah, you don't mind.
As long as it's not losing.
Yeah.
It's better than, like we don't mind. But yeah, no, today, obviously we're really stoked to be getting this launching, and we are joined by esteemed guests, Anthony Pacheco, who is the founder of Simple, and Mike Henneberger. Please tell me if I'm saying your name wrong, man. Who is a best-selling author and also Emmy Award winner. So we're really, really excited about this. And I will pop them up on the screen so they can introduce themselves, tell you a little bit about what they do, and then we'll have a conversation. So hope you guys enjoy this. And first up, we'll bring Mike on the screen.
Hey, what's up, everybody? I'm Mike Henneberger. Did not expect to go first, but that's okay. I was actually just sharing this to my Facebook so people can drop in. So yeah, I've been working in and around music in one way or another for over 20 years now. I'm 38 years old. I started my first band when I was 14. Not only was it a ska band, but it was a Christian ska band. And I was the singer of that band and also handled the management as much as 14 to 20-year-old could handle it. That's the ages I was in that band. Went on my first tour that I booked when I was 17 years old. And this was in the year 2000 when we had one cell phone among the 7 of us on the tour. And we could only use it for emergencies because it costs too much to make a phone call. So this is back in the day that you hear bands sing about using phone cards from pay phones at truck stops and navigating a tour with a giant road atlas that you buy at those truck stops. And I don't even think we had MapQuest back then. We definitely didn't have social media. I say that I'd like to think that if I had had Facebook back then, I would be a rock star because I was a killer marketer. I had insane hustle that I still have to this day. So the whole DIY life back then taught me everything that I still use in my career today. Let's see, that's 21 years later. So yeah, I played in that band for a little over 5 years, and then I was in another band. It was kind of like an emo band in 2002, kind of Further Seems Forever-y, Thursday, not really super screamo, but just kind of that stuff back then. And We didn't tour, but we did play all over Texas. I'm originally from South Texas, and like the Corpus Christi area. And we got on all the Texas Warped Tour dates in 2003. Again, just kind of me going after it and finding Kevin Lyman's email address and emailing him and asking him. And he said yes. And we were only supposed to play one date. So we went to the San Antonio date, and he asked us to go on right like at the first, in the first slot of one of the bigger stages, because one of the bands didn't make it. And so I had to sprint across the entire Warped Tour to our van in the parking lot and tell my band, like, we're going on now. And when we loaded up and played, and I only tell that story because it's just another like example of busting your ass and literally hustling to kind of get, move forward with your band and, whatever you're trying to achieve. So I played in bands for like 7 years till my early 20s. And because I was just a singer and not a really great musician at all, I can't write my own songs, my own like music. I always wrote the lyrics, but kind of just got tired of playing in bands because of them breaking up like out of my control. And so I eventually started working in music journalism and writing about music so I could like interview the bands that I loved. And I grew up in a small town with no opportunity to do that kind of stuff. So my brother and I started our own magazine called The Vent in college. And it was just a handwritten zine that we printed out into a Xerox machine and folded over, stapled, handed out ourselves around our university. And then my brother turned that into like an alternative newspaper that's been around Corpus Christi for over 20 years now, I think. Yeah, something like that. So he's been running it still since I've been in New York City for the last 9 years. So he's still down in Corpus Christi, Texas, running that. But we started that, and we started a cable or a TV show on our college network so we could interview bands and talk to them just about music and expose that like emo and punk and hardcore stuff to our little town that was not getting it from anywhere else. And so that's how I started my career in music journalism, which led to me becoming a photographer so I could photograph bands, and then me getting into video, which is now what I do as a career. I'm a video producer here in New York City, where I produce commercials. I've produced and directed music videos, including for Have Mercy, who's on Hopeless Records. And there's a great band out of the DC area called Sub Radio that you should look up, because they are killing it as an independent band, busting their asses, doing amazing shit on, I guess we didn't talk about cussing, but I'm guessing we can do that. This is what happens when you let me go on by myself. But check out Sub Radio. They're killing it as an independent band, doing like live shows on Reddit, which is insane. I didn't even know was a thing, but they actually get millions of people watching them play as an independent band on Reddit. So I'm a video producer now. I moved to New York 9 years ago to work at Comedy Central, where I was a social media digital producer for the show Workaholics and the Roast of James Franco and other special events at Comedy Central, which is how I won that Emmy right there. And so while that wasn't working in music, it taught me something that I never even knew I could do or would do, because like that Emmy that I won is for outstanding interactive programming, which is like all the web stuff and digital stuff that goes with the TV show. So for all the social media stuff and YouTube originals and stuff like that. But like, I always wanted to write for TV and work in TV, but I never could have dreamed of winning an Emmy in digital production, because that didn't exist when I was a kid. So I always tell people that if you feel like you're failing at something, or if you feel like something you want to do isn't working, isn't happening for you, like, you don't know that the thing you could be super successful at might not even exist yet. Like when I was a kid, all I thought about at first was being a professional skateboarder, but I sucked at skateboarding. So that never worked out. And then all I thought about was being a rock star and playing in a band, not really being a rock star, but just playing in a band for a living. That's all I wanted till I was like 22 years old. And it turns out like the most successful I've been, or like the coolest thing that's happened to me in my career, is winning an Emmy in an industry that didn't even exist until I was probably like 20, you know? So you never know like where your career could take you. But that being said, like that's not music, but it taught me digital marketing, and it taught me how to keep up with social media. When I was working at Comedy Central, like, Instagram was around and Facebook was around, but TikTok wasn't around yet. Snapchat was barely coming around. It's so like, it taught me that you have to keep up with that stuff. And even working at Comedy Central, because like digital was still so kind of like newish, we're talking 2012. And I think that's right. Yeah, I won that Emmy in 2013. So because that stuff was still so kind of new and emerging, the TV people didn't really put a lot of investment into it. And then I worked at Rolling Stone as a video producer for a little while and saw that the like print people didn't really care about video because, they're afraid of print dying and they're afraid of big bad new video coming and pushing print out. And then I worked at Billboard as a video producer, Billboard magazine, for a year. And it was the same thing. Like people didn't really invest in video there because, they're a print world, they're a print medium. And it's like they're called like legacy companies because they've been around for so long, but that sometimes makes those companies like resistant to change and into accepting new things that could just make their old thing better. It doesn't have to push the old thing out. It can make the old thing better. And so I say all that to say that it's been my like DIY spirit that I learned from the punk rock scene, playing in it and playing in bands and booking my own shows when I was like 16. That taught me to like go at it alone if you have to, like do whatever you have to do to make it work and to make something good happen, So yeah, that's pretty much been most of my career. The last 10 years I've been working in video. I started a charity called Zero Platoon, which works with bands and other artists to reach out to people in the military who deal with mental health issues. I was in the Army for a little bit and got out with major depressive disorder and anxiety disorder. And I realized a big part of that was because I didn't have the same freedom to go to shows that I had before. And you all know that when you go to a show, you're in your community of all these people like you're hearing a band that means something to you, and that stuff helps you get through shit. And I didn't have that for a while. So I started Zero Platoon to take bands to play for military people who are dealing with mental health stuff. It's also, and mainly, a YouTube channel. Just look up Zero Platoon on YouTube. And I interview bands and talk to them about how music has helped them get through hard times. And we'll do acoustic videos so they can explain like how they wrote a particular song to help them get through something. So yeah, if you check out Zero Platoon, there's videos there from like Vinny from the movie Life and I'm the Avalanche, Dustin from Thrice, Matt Pryor from the Get Up Kids, Neck Deep. Yeah, just all kinds of cool artists on there. Yeah, and then I just released a book last year called Rock Bottom at the Renaissance, an emo kid's journey through falling in and out of love in and with New York City. And that's a kind of just about like the toughest time in my mental health struggles and how music helped me get through it. And the audiobook just came out this April, and it actually features the songs that are mentioned in the book. So if you listen to the audiobook, you have songs from Death Cab for Cutie, songs from Bayside, songs from The Wonder Years, and Jimmy Eat World let me use 2 unreleased recordings of their songs. So if you listen to that, you can hear their Phoenix session recordings of 23 and Kill. And that's basically what I'm working on now, just promoting the book and trying to turn it into a TV show. But yeah, I've been all over the place, man, but it's all been kind of around music. And it's been an awesome ride for 20 plus years now. But yeah, that's just like, you know, I hope I have some useful stuff to say for some folks who, you know, are doing independent music. Cause I mean,
you've already hit on, Mike, you've already hit on some such amazing points. First of all, hey man, fellow Texan here.
Yeah.
And
how's it going?
What was the ska band?
It was called Glue.
Okay. And then what was the Warped Tour band?
They're called Waiting on Wednesday.
Okay. So we were on with you guys in 2003 then.
Yeah.
And, yeah. Interesting, man. Well, dude, you made some amazing points that I just want to hit upon super quick. There you are. Oh, were you on our stage? You were on Jimmy Ball?
It was on the Maurice stage.
Oh, okay. Okay. Awesome.
Yeah, that was the first day was on the Maurice stage, and then we played on the Kevin Says stage.
Got it. Okay. Well, you worked your ass off then, because that's a really hard stage, man.
Yeah. Well, that was the one where like the Maurice stage. Yeah, it was like there was the two main stages, and then the Maurice stage was the next biggest one.
Yeah.
That was the one where I went to check in the morning, and Kevin was at the was making the lineup, and I said, "I'm just checking in to see when we could go on," and he said, "Can you go on now?"
Right.
And I was like, "Yeah, sure," and I just bolted across the fest and got our band loaded up. But yeah, like Under Oath was on that stage, Tsunami Bomb, I think.
Yeah.
I think Slick Shoes too. Like we definitely didn't belong on that stage. It was just like we got lucky because they needed somebody.
Yeah, that was an awesome stage that year for sure. You know, we have a lot of similarities in that, you know, my band as well. You know, we went through the gamut of the no cell phone, used to have a pager so that I could advance shows, had a calling card so that I could call an 800 number to be able to do that. And you advanced your shows through answer machines back then. So you'd leave a message going, yeah, okay, could we maybe get a case of beer? Or I mean, even okay, so water is fine. That'd be great, you know. But I think, you know, it's such a cool journey that you've had because you've been in and around all of it so much. But I think one of the things that I think your career and what you just said is a great that kind of just keeps it's a reoccurring theme, I think, all over is resisting the new. That, you know, I think that print companies seem like your description of the way Rolling Stone and Billboard react or treat the video side of things is not unlike the way that the record labels treated streaming in the beginning. And, you know, and instead of embracing it and using it to your advantage, you know, the resistance really only makes you more obsolete when it comes time.
Yeah.
You know, and so I mean, and so it's super interesting that you've been on both sides of that. You know?
And when I've been at these places where, like, again, like as a music journalist who started my own magazine, and I don't know, do you know Kingsville, Texas, south of Corpus Christi?
Yeah,
it's like 25,000 people.
Yeah,
and like it was a dream to work at Rolling Stone, you know, and I wasn't writing for them; I was producing videos, but getting there and kind of seeing how it was like. It just seemed like people were bitter, you know, like it felt like, you know, I don't want to say they know they're dying because I don't think print has to die. They have to embrace the new. And the same thing with the music industry. It's like, I don't think the music industry has to die. It's just all these companies are still run by like old people who are afraid to embrace the new and feel like it's all too overwhelming to them. I can't tell you how many times I've been told at these companies that I was too ambitious because like all of my ideas I'd pitch to them, they would think were risky, but I'm the guy who booked a 2.5 month tour when he was 17, you know, like I know how to do things because of my DIY spirit, that nothing seems risky to me. You know, I just work hard enough to make it work, and they just don't. Maybe they've like been away from that for too long or never had it in the first place, you know?
Yeah. Well, they were going through the motions for so long, you know?
Yeah.
I feel like you also, here's a political thing from a non-political guy. You just described the American government as well.
Yeah.
You know, it's like exactly, you know, it's the same, right? It's a bunch of old people running things that, you know, have no idea what it's like to actually live in the real world, you know.
Yeah.
And it's the same with record labels and you know, with the really, really big labels. It's like, you know, they make 90% of their money from 2% of their artists, you know, and
Yeah.
they have no idea what life is like for, you know, for these bands that are out here. I also just wanted to talk to you a little bit about the journey from because this is big with Bowling for Soup still. 27 years in, we've gone from the years of getting in the van and pounding the pavement and booking those 6-month tours on our own and tour. I think that's the dream of a lot of bands, but in my opinion, that this day and age, that doesn't exist anymore. I don't believe that that's the way forward. I believe it's content creation
Yeah.
and building your band. You have to build it regionally and then go out, and it's all about relationships. What are your thoughts on that, on
No,
the way that's changed?
absolutely. And I mean, that's like something that I've had to do because my career as a video producer isn't just that. Like you can't, it doesn't, I've had clients who've hired me to, I produced a live stream at South by Southwest of Waterloo Records Day Party for the sponsor. And it was like Andrew WK, and You Will Know Us by the Trail of Dead, a bunch of great bands, but nobody watched it because I told the client, this could be the best live stream, but if you don't market it, no one's going to watch it. And you're going to feel like you wasted your money that you're paying me.
Mm-hmm.
And they still just did not have someone dedicated to running their Facebook, posting it, sharing it, putting some money behind the posts.
Mm-hmm.
They didn't have anyone do that. And the audience was so small. And that's not my fault. I was just there to make the live stream, you know?
Yeah.
But that's absolutely true. It doesn't matter what kind of brand you are. Content creation is how you sell your brand now. Like whether you're a band, whether this was a fitness company,
Mm-hmm.
like it's also like the easiest thing too, because we all have the ability to do it, you know?
Yeah.
And, you know, you could say that, yeah, sure, there are companies with, you know, money to put behind stuff, but also like a lot of those companies don't know what they're doing, you know?
No, they don't.
You could spend $20 the right way and do better than a company that spends $1,000 the wrong way.
That's such an interesting point too, because you know, it's ever evolving too. It's difficult to keep up with, you know, as far as the right way to spend money. Like for example, most of the people who are going to watch this are going to be musicians and up and coming artists who are wanting to spread the word. And you know, the argument comes of, you know, should I spend the money buying onto tours or should I spend the money this way and this? That obviously there's no real right answer in that, but how you spend your money on the internet, as you just said, I'm sure you know bands, as the band that you're talking about in that's doing well on Reddit and all of that. I mean, that's free, you know, and you know, you using those outlets, but they probably also have research to know, you know, okay, if I spend $10 here, you know, I'm going to get the same exposure as if you know, these people over here are spending thousands of dollars and don't know what they're doing.
Yeah.
Well, we were literally saying the other day, weren't we, Jarrett, that you can't just be in a band anymore. It's not enough just to be in a band anymore. Right. Like everybody kind of has to take on extra roles, and obviously social media and content creation is such an important part of that now as well.
Yeah, you know, it's sad. Sorry to cut you off, Mike. It's a sad. It's not really a sad reality. It's a realistic reality that it's not enough to write good songs and be a rock star anymore.
Yeah, but it never was. I mean, bands had to go on morning radio, you know, in the early 2000s. If you were, you know, like at a certain level, you went on TRL and you went on tour and you went into Good Morning Cleveland and you like exactly. So like,
yeah. Do you know how hard it is to sing "Girl All the Bad Guys Want" at 6 o'clock in the morning when you went to bed at 4:30?
Yeah.
Sorry, we just had a comment roll in that agrees with what we're saying, so I just thought I'd pull it up on the screen so you guys can see.
Well, I still want to talk about singing "Girl the Bad Guys Want" at 6 o'clock.
Yeah, no, I went out on the road with a band where I was just doing like video stuff for them. That band, Have Mercy, that was on Hopeless Records that I mentioned, and they played a festival in Ohio. and we, partied that night. But then the next morning they were on one of those Good Morning Columbus or whatever it was.
Yeah.
And so like I've got video footage of these guys just like rolled out of bed, just there with the camera guy in front of their face in the hotel lobby or whatever. But yeah, man, that's crazy. But this is just the same thing, it's like, of course everyone's going to feel that way. Like, I just want to play music, but that was never a possibility, even like the Beatles, they blew up because they went on Ed Sullivan,
Yeah, my heroes were Motley Crue, and it's like that band had created such an image for themselves before they did one show.
Yeah,
that they were already selling out shows, and they had never played a gig. Like that. And it's just because they were doing the marketing and figuring all that out. It's never. We'll probably get into some more of the points that you made. I just love your story, man. And
Thanks, man.
And then I want to commend you as well. I too am I get on my soapbox about anxiety and depression quite often. Actually, it's something that didn't affect me until I got into my 40s.
Yeah.
And then it consumed my life for several years, and it ended some relationships. It almost ended my band. And so I want to thank you for not only, creating an outlet for, and a charity and an outlet for people, like me to be able to come on there and play their songs and tell their stories, but also just to put that into the public eye, because it's more about the stigma now than ever. And it's culturally, it's different in the UK than it is in the US. And we're all in different spots as far as, whether or not we're going to be able to, finally just go, hey, I'm depressed, and that's and it's fine,
Yeah. No, I appreciate you too, man. I've seen you talk about it a lot too. So yeah, thank you for doing that as well.
Yeah, man. I and probably like you, it's not something that I set out for it to be a cause for me. Like I was more just terrified to even put my story out there. And then once you see the effect that it has on people, you're just like, okay, fuck it.
Yeah, honestly, like when I started Zero Platoon, it was kind of also for therapy, like I turned to these bands in my room alone or just in my headphones to help me get through it. But now I actually got to talk to them and say like, hey, please tell me like you were going through something too, so I don't feel alone, and like it's great. Like, even though like not everybody has to have mental illness, like everybody has mental health. And we all have to, be on guard of that,
And I think it's good that I'm seeing now a lot more in the community that people will, like band members will reach out to one another. Whereas before you might write a song about it or create a piece of art. But now people are actually a lot more open about talking about it and having those discussions as well, which I think is really good.
Definitely. Yeah, there's a community out there. I mean, look, we should move on and introduce Andrew, but I'll make my final point on that, that for now, I mean, it's an epidemic, and when we started losing, you start losing Chester and dudes who, like, or you just think, oh my God, like that guy's got the perfect life or whatever, and shit in other worlds, like Robin Williams. And, it's like, okay, hold on, like we've got to be there for each other, and we've got to be a community, and so I commend you, Mike.
Thanks, man.
Absolutely. You got amazing career tapestry there, man.
Absolutely.
Awesome stuff. Right, I'll pull us off, and we'll bring Anthony on so he can.
But Mike, please hang out, and we'll all be on here in a little bit. And let's meet. Danny, you want to introduce Andrew?
Yep, absolutely. So we've got Anthony Pacheco coming on. Yeah, sorry. Anthony's coming on next, and he is the founder of Simple and a marketing genius. So I will let him take over.
Hey, how's it going? My name is Anthony Pacheco. I'm the founder of a music marketing agency called Simple, and we grow the world's most exciting artists. We do anything and everything from helping you with your organic social media marketing strategies as well as your paid social media strategies, right? Leveraging things like Facebook, Instagram, TikTok, paid ads, which is all exciting stuff. And before Simple, I was actually a musician as well. I was in a post-hardcore progressive rock band called Dwellings out of Modesto, California. The two best things to come from Modesto have been Jeremy Renner and George Lucas, and neither of them acknowledge being from Modesto. So that kind of gives you a little insight as to how great our hometown is. Kind of full circle with the reason why I'm in the marketing world is because of our lovely town not having a sustainable venue. It was really hard being a developing artist. So we had to play in a lot of neighboring cities, such as like Sacramento, San Francisco, even down south in LA. So for me, kind of coming up in a, in a household where we're very much aware of like profit and loss, or just like making sure our finances were all in check. I kind of applied that same philosophy that my parents, brought onto me into my music. So for me, after we played a show in front of like, 50, 100 kids tops, sometimes I would come back home and write out how much we spent on like gas, food, and, actually going out there because your time is valuable. And the returns that we were getting from playing shows, it just ended up not being profitable, right? So at times we would spend upwards of up to $300 on gas, gear rentals if applicable, or even just our own, gear that was diminishing over time, and, our vehicles. And to me, it was like, wow, I just drove 2 hours to play in front of, 50 kids and come back home with, 2 extra Spotify listeners. Like this is not getting us anywhere. We can't keep doing this. So my day job at the time, I was doing digital marketing for real businesses, right? So like business to consumer or business to business, like construction, wineries, etc. So I was like, why can't I do the things that I do at work for my music, right? Because social media is wonderful. And that's where I kind of found a love and a need for digital marketing in the music industry. And long story short, by learning and using those social media tools to my advantage, I found a much stronger return from spending money or time into these digital strategies, right? Like I found a much bigger return spending 2 hours in a Reddit thread talking about new and exciting music versus, driving 2 hours to play a show. Like I saw the almost immediate return right then and there. I was building relationships with people. I kind of took the same concept of networking and talking to people that were there at the show, and I took that to the digital world, and it worked. And to this day, it's still something that I recommend people, to do. And especially in this group, on the alternative music scene group, I see a community being built, a lot of people networking. Show swapping kind of stopped for the past year, obviously because of the pandemic, but it's just cool, how you can leverage the online space to grow your music. And long story short, that bands that I was in, we released our debut record, and we actually charted Billboard because of the community we built online and because of the digital marketing strategies that we used and leveraged. And that was great. That was something I always wanted to do. I wanted to release an album, I wanted to tour, and I wanted to chart Billboard. And I did all three of those things in this band, which was amazing. And, I quickly found that touring was not for me due to, full circle on what you guys are kind of touching base on, due to mental health and just lifestyle preferences. Just the touring gig was not for me. And I kind of had a, I guess, identity crisis when that happened. So I left the band, and, fast forward to now, I help other artists grow and, achieve their goals, which is great. Prior to formally doing marketing, I also was a writer for a couple of music blogs. I wrote for this blog called Flippin' Music way back in the day. Not way back, that was like a couple of years ago. But yeah, that's kind of where my taste, I guess, into the PR world and just blog writing and whatnot kind of stemmed from. And yeah, I love what I do, and I will always continue sharing the gospel of music marketing to, people via my Facebook, my website, and my TikTok profile. So yeah, that's the short and sweet version of who I am and what I do.
Anthony, first of all, I'm sorry I called you Andrew.
No worries. A lot of people do that. You'd be surprised.
Son of a bitch. I'm going to blame it on the insanity of our Facebook thread. And I'm blaming it all on the Russians.
There you go.
And I'm not far off, am I, Danny?
No.
No, I'm not far off. Man, I mean, you know, I guess for what I'm wondering is like what's a band's foundation for their internet presence? Like if someone's, you know, someone's like, hey, we've got some good songs, we've got, you know, we've got a great demo, we're playing shows locally or whatever. I realize this is a basic question. I honestly don't know the answer because in some ways I am a bit of a dinosaur. But do you still need a website?
Um, yes and no. I mean, there's a lot of tools out there. Like, most people are familiar with Linktree or Beacons, but the one I prefer is a platform called Koji. And the reason why I really enjoy them is because they are so much more than just like a website / link in bio tool. Like, I actually have a ton of content planned for the coming weeks around that platform in particular, because I always get this question all the time as far as like, do I need a website? How do I start collecting emails? I need to open up a merch store, but I don't have, $29 a month to pay for Shopify. Koji allows you to do all of that shit for free. Like,
Wow.
it's insane.
Really?
So you can pretty much take all of the needs of a website and just condense it all into a link in bio platform, which is nuts. Like, you can do subscriptions, right? So you don't even need to use Patreon. Like, if someone clicks on your bio link, there's like a little, you can, it obviously has like the link list, but with each one you can label it like, donate or, subscribe monthly for exclusive content, or you can link your MailChimp or whatever email platform you use directly in there, which is super powerful. So the biggest thing with musicians, however, is like there's just so much information out there and just so many tools readily available now. Like, I'm using a pretty cool microphone into a Focusrite, like these things weren't accessible 10-15 years ago. Like,
Sure.
it was kind of like a trade secret. Now it's like common knowledge. Like, you don't have a Focusrite, like, what are you talking about? So the issue with that though is that we spend a lot of time thinking and planning rather than doing. Like, if I tell you all you need is a DAW and a microphone and an interface to start recording vocals at home, what are you going to do? You're going to spend so much time planning, asking, which DAW do I use? Which microphone do I buy? And this takes like weeks, if not months. And then you're just in this endless cycle of figuring out what the best way to do anything is. So I think it's the same with like marketing and promoting your music. Like, musicians spend so much time writing and re-recording the same song or, the same album. And then, at the end of it, they're so like excited to put it out that they kind of just forgot about all the marketing stuff, or they were thinking about doing the marketing stuff, but it's just this endless cycle of overthinking. So my advice is always just do shit to get shit done. Like, perfection will come over time,
And I love that your company's called Simple, because I totally agree. You mentioned the recording thing and the overthinking versus doing. I think, you just see all of these conversations all the time with people just like, now, what's the best mic to get? What's this? You're so right. Like, most of the Bowling for Soup records that have been made in the last 10 years have been done in here, and I have zero gear. Like, I have Pro Tools, I have a great interface, and I have a decent mic. And that's it. It's like we don't go to these big fuck off recording studios, because if you just learn how to use what you have and perform what you need to perform well, and the rest of it, it'll come together. I mean, I love that you brought that up, because even my best friend Linus, who is he's a very successful producer. It's a one little rack and a couple of keyboards and some guitars in his studio. It's not all of this rack gear. We've got to have all these compressors and all of this insanity. Keep it simple.
Yeah, that's actually how I came up with the company name. I kept thinking like, what's a cool name for a marketing company? And then I remember the saying, keep it simple, stupid. So I was like, whatever,
Yeah.
I'll just call it
Yeah,
Simple.
yeah.
I'll take off the
Right.
E. slap a period at the end to be trendy and call it a
That's
day,
perfect.
you know?
You know, I have a question for you though, as far as, because I do want to hit upon, I sort of, I get what you're saying as far as like where you were with your band, in that you're going profit loss for your shows and here and you know, um, I think for me, not that I completely disagree with you, I just wonder, isn't some of that what your investment is in your band? And you're basically, what you're saying is there's nothing wrong with that. It's just you wanted to reroute where those funds were going and how they were being used.
Yes and no. It's not just a funding thing. It's more of like best use of your time. And in retrospect, like my favorite part about playing shows was playing the show, you know, like
Right.
that's just what it is for me. For other people, they want to see like and this is bad because it's kind of like a mindset thing. Like most artists think that after they go on their first tour, their first weekend run, that they're gonna blow up on, you know, streaming platforms, and
Yeah.
that's just not how it works, as we all know. But I think it's just a expectation versus reality type of thing, because this, you know, the band I was talking about, Dwellings, wasn't my first and only band. I was in like 3 others prior to that, but those 3 bands, they did the same things over and over. Play at our local, well, not even local, it was like around a, you know, 9-hour radius, if you want to call it. But we were always like opening for these bigger bands, playing these sold out shows, and like we never cracked 1,000 monthly listeners on Spotify. Like, yeah, we made like a couple $100 each show, and that was great. But it was like, man, it's just my friends coming from, you know, my hometown coming out to the shows. Like, are we actually walking away with like fans, you know? So
Right.
it was just difficult, you know, and I get it, you know, you kind of have to work hard to play hard, so to say. But for me, I just found more success trying the online route. And, you know, maybe for you, being a, you know, road rager is the best route, you know, like it
Mhm.
ultimately just depends on you. So I wouldn't throw that completely out the window. But if you're playing at your local bar, or, you know, within a certain radius of your hometown, you know, for years on end, and it doesn't seem to be moving the needle, then you really need to do something else, you know?
Yeah, and it's the combination of the two. I mean, I think, you know, for me, you know, I you know, again, 27 years in the same band, and I have the luxury of having the most loyal fans on the planet. So wherever I go, people are going to show up. So but understand that it wasn't always like that. So those of you who are listening and going, yeah, that's fucking, you know, but remember, you know, I was in the van 9 years, and I lived in it for 2 of them. So, you know, that's where I'm coming from with this. To me, it's that hour and a half a day that you get when you're in front of people and you're making them laugh, or you're making them smile. For me anyway, making them laugh, making them smile, and them singing their songs back to you,
Yeah.
that made the road dogging aspect of it worth it, and still does this day. That's time away from my family, that's time away from my dogs. You know, it's years off my life because of the amount of alcohol I drink when I'm out there. I mean, it's all of those things. But that hour and a half. I mean, I swear to God, this is a true story. I just flew to Las Vegas to play for 15 minutes, and it was
Jeez.
100% worth it.
Oh yeah. I mean, I definitely miss playing shows. I mean, I sit behind a desk all day, but just, you know, the lifestyle aspect of it, you know, without getting into the nitty-gritty of it, just wasn't good for, you know, my mental health and, you
Yeah.
know, just issues, you know.
It takes, you know, it's you know, you know, as Mike was saying earlier, you know, it's like there's so much more to it, even if you just are the guy that's just playing drums in the band or whatever. Like it's you know, touring, being in a band, all of it. There's just so many mind fucks that happen, you know, throughout all of it. And I could say, like, if you're, you know, again, if you are playing all these sold out shows and it just seems like you're spinning your wheels, it's like, what the fuck are we doing? You know, you got to be doing both, you know, in my
Yeah.
opinion. I think but I understand this too. This goes back to what I was saying with Mike is, when I'm saying like the whole road dogging or whatever, but again, I think you build regionally and then you build out and you keep going. But I don't think you do what we did and go $25,000 in debt to keep yourself on the road, as a gamble, because that's dumb. You need to reel that back in and get on the internet.
Yeah, 100%. Like doing both is great. And I mean, there's nothing wrong with playing shows regionally, but to an extent, again, like if you do it for years on end and it's just not moving the needle, like something's missing there,
Yeah.
But yeah,
I think the internet is such a big tool now, and like you said, it is really all about keeping it as as few steps as possible, because ultimately you can put yourself out on loads of different social media platforms, but then you've got things like Linktree, which kind of condense everything. And I just, just as a pure fact, really, people can be lazy when they're browsing. So the less steps that they have to do, the more chance that you're going to get somebody subscribed to your mailing list, or somebody, go and stream one of your songs on Spotify. It's kind of my take on it.
Now, before we bring Mike back, and I know Anthony, I know you got to go. We'll bring Mike back on for a little bit of a chat. Now, where do people need to go to check out Simple, and where can people find you on the internet?
Yeah, so you guys can add me, on my personal Facebook, or you can check out my website, which is oddlysimple.xyz. It's the most difficult domain name ever. I don't know why I chose it, but yeah, I'm just Anthony Pacheco across the board. You'll find my website somehow. So all good.
Awesome, man. Well, dude, I know that you've got much more to say. Hopefully we can have you back on. I apologize for being late. Actually, again, I'm blaming the Russians.
Yeah,
so it was their fault.
And well, Anthony, we'll let you go. And let's bring Mike back on, Danny.
Yep. And thank you so much for joining us, Anthony.
Yes,
really
thank you. Thank you, Anthony.
And here's Mike.
Yes, that was great. Thanks, Anthony.
Yeah, that was awesome. I wish that we would have had time to take some questions for him, but I do understand we asked for an amount of time and then I fucked it all up.
I do have a question in the screen, but it depends if you've got to jump off like literally right now. If
yeah,
not,
he needs to go, so you can remove him from the stream.
Okay, no problem. Cheers, Anthony.
See Anthony. Yeah, he sent a carrier pigeon over, because he's new and old school. Mike,
yeah.
So, as you listen to all that and you think back to, you and I in Texas, I mean, the lucky part about touring in Texas was, I don't know about you guys, but we had 13, 14 markets that we could play, but Corpus is 10 hours away.
Yeah. And it's also like off any route. Like you have to go, like it's off the interstate.
Yep.
Like 20, 30 minutes. So it's not really on a route. Right. But yeah, we played everywhere. Houston, and then Houston, there's like the Woodlands, and there's all around Houston there's suburbs you can play in, and you're from Dallas, right?
Yeah.
So there's towns between the cities, so it's good. It's crazy too, because like from Corpus Christi or from Kingsville, Austin is 4 hours,
Right.
So like I live in New York City now, where Philly is an hour and a half away, and Boston is like, I don't know, 3 hours or something, 4 hours. But yeah, like I'm used to driving 8 hours to Dallas. I used to have to do that to just go to concerts when I was a kid, So yeah, I love, like, people from everywhere else think it's so weird that I love driving, but it's because like you had to. If you're from Texas, you drive,
Yeah, it's so we were always jealous of the Northeast bands. I mean, always, like it's like everything. And then we do a lot of business in the UK, and that's that's half our freaking crowd, half our audience is in the UK, and they will not travel. They will absolutely not travel. So when you you announce tour dates and you're 30 minutes away, they're just like, and you're not coming to Cambridge, and it's just like you've like one of the greatest train systems in the history of the world, and
Yeah.
you know they will not, absolutely will not. So
Yeah.
funny how that changed. But I mean, you know, what Anthony was saying was a lot about where you said, you know, that things were heading as far as you know.
Yeah, and I think he's totally right too about overthinking. I think because everything is overwhelming, man. I've for the last 3 years I've been working on this book, you know, leading up to it coming out last year, then leading up to the audiobook coming out this year. And it's exactly like being in an independent band. And like, even though I haven't played in an independent band in 15 years, I've gone out on the road with independent bands, and I've, you know, worked like with that band Sub Radio. I did like 3 or 4 music videos for them. Have Mercy, I went out on the road with them. I've taken Zero Platoon out on the road with bands too. So like, I've still been there and seen it in the last, you know, 5 years. So I got a ton of friends who are still doing it. Like, I know how it's working now, and doing this book is the exact same thing. Like, and especially like, I don't know shit about the literary world, so I'm working this book like I would work an album. You know, that's the only way I know how to approach it.
Yeah.
So like, when I got a publicist for it, I went to Big Picture Media. That's like one of the best music PR companies. Works with The Used, Sum 41, Bayside, like Newfound Glory. Like, I went to them because I've known them forever, and I know they know how to work good music. And I feel like my book is more for a music crowd than a literary crowd anyway. You know, I've done a ton of music podcasts and stuff. But yeah, so I just wanted to mention that too, because, you know, this is music networking, and a lot of the people in this group are independent musicians, and that's just what you have to do. Like, I just searched and searched for, I probably did more than 50 podcasts for my book in the last year and a half. And it's because I just went and looked at music podcasts and went to the suggestions of, if you like this podcast, maybe you'll like these other 6, you know, and I'd find Instagram and, you know, DM people on Instagram or email people. And like, it's just, you just got to go after it, you know, and this stuff it's all out there for us to find, but it is so much, and it is overwhelming if you overthink it. You know, just find one podcast, you know, or just find, you know, watch one video about TikTok strategy. You know, you don't have to learn it all right now. But yeah, so like, that's what I'm saying. Like, what I learned from Comedy Central was to keep studying, because it all changes so fast and new shit pops up, and nobody's a pro at this, because a year ago, the guys who were the best at digital marketing didn't know shit about TikTok, or 2 years ago, maybe, you know, maybe they were on to TikTok a year ago, but like the people who are the best at this don't know the next thing that's going to come out that hasn't even come out yet. So we're all level there, you know. If a brand new platform pops up tomorrow, I know it as much as the best digital marketer who'd never heard of it, you know. So me and him are on the level playing field. I just have to keep, you know, kick my butt to like go after and learn it, you know.
And then when a new platform does, sorry, Yara.
No, go ahead, Danny.
I was just going to say, when a new platform does crop up, then you have people who obviously sort of 50-50 as to whether they want to go through the, you know, the whole process of creating a profile on there, and whether it's actually going to be any use. Like, I've noticed that happened with TikTok as well. You know, there's a lot of musicians who kind of weren't really sure about it, whether they were going to join. And, you know, unfortunately, sometimes with that, you can miss the wave, you know, and the huge sort of spike in engagement that happens in that initial kind of development period. And now, you know, people who are sort of late to the game, you know, obviously they still get to use it and take advantage of it, but you sort of miss that initial kind of excitement period. And some of the people who got onto that train early, you know, now have thousands of followers. So it really is just about kind of paying attention and keeping on top of what's.
But you also let that bother you too much, because like, I've worked at, you know, the companies that I've worked at, and I've seen them pour hundreds of thousands of dollars into, you know, Snapchat when they were like launching new series on there. I've seen companies invest so much into that just to like turn out that it didn't catch on like it was supposed to, you know? And then Vine, when I was at Comedy Central, Vine was huge.
Yeah.
And I was one of those people. I've always been kind of a late adopter. Like I didn't get on Spotify forever because I loved Pandora so much. It was like so good at finding the music I wanted. So I've always been late to that stuff. But also like at Comedy Central, everyone, they were so excited about Vine. And I was like, yeah, but you know, these things come and go. And then Vine was gone in like a year, you know, if even that.
Right.
So don't stress about it is what I would say, because there is a lot out there and you're going to let yourself get overwhelmed and then you're just not going to do any of it.
So that I got to stop you there because that's exactly my point. I'm so happy you just said exactly like that. I'm gonna put it into real world terms, and then I'm gonna back up exactly what you just said. So my son, when it's time for him to clean his room, goes into his room and sits there amongst the mess, and just dwells in it, and is just completely overwhelmed. And you know, we will let this go on, right? I mean, this is him learning, and we'll let it go on for hours. And it's like his friends are wanting him to come out and play, and this and this and this. What he learns every single fucking time is if he will just take those things one by one and just pick it off and pick it off and pick it off and pick it off. It takes him a total of about 12 minutes to clean his room, and he's been sitting in there for 5 hours. And I am super guilty of this, and this is probably where he gets it. But I am overwhelmed by TikTok because I have all these amazing ideas to do, and because I'm so overwhelmed by all of it that I need to get done, nothing gets done. And then I'm the same way with shit. I've got to sing 12 Bowling for Soup songs. I can't just go in there for an hour and knock out one, you know, like I really need a whole day. Well, a whole day's never going to happen, but every single time it keeps putting off. And so what you just said is really, to me, you know, something we all need to do.
Yeah.
And that is go, man, you know, it's like, you know, what's the thing, right? If you make your bed, you know, which
in the morning.
I never will, but if you make your bed in the morning, they say that you've already accomplished one thing. It will set you up for this amazing day.
Yeah.
You know, so, you know, I'm going to take away that. I'm taking that lesson away from this panel.
No, I say it as much for myself as for everybody else. Like I for a year, the guy who recorded my audiobook, his name's Tyler Posey, and he was the star of Teen Wolf on MTV, but he's also like does like pop punk music. He's on John Feldman's label, and he's a great dude who's also like opened up about mental health stuff, and he wants to do the TV show of my book. And I've known this for a year, and I have not written one word of a script because I think I can't just write. Like if I write the script, I have to know what the whole series is going to be, and I have to know what every episode is going to be. So I can't just write the script because it's got to set up other and I just overthink it, and I haven't written one word of a script.
Yep.
So I say it for as much for myself. It's easier said than done, but it is like important for everybody to figure out, including myself.
It's a funny lesson, man. I mean, I did all of these charity shows, and I did my own shows on and I gave out prizes all during the COVID or whatever. And I put off sending out the prize. I put off sending out the prizes until people were pissed. I know a lot of bands do this when they crowdfund an album. You give all this shit away, and then when it comes time to handwrite those lyrics, you put it off and you put it off and you put it off, and then it goes and it never gets done, and then people are pissed at you, you know. So it's like you just have to do the thing of like, man, I'm going to spend 30 minutes. I'm going to write 1985 out a couple of times, and then I'm going to sign that shit and send it to somebody. You know, and then everybody's happy, you know, but you know, what a great point. Danny, should we take some questions? We've had Mike for a while now.
Yeah, please, guys, anyone who's tuned into this and has any specific questions, please stick them in the stream and I'll bring them up on the screen for us to talk about. Dara actually just mentioned about option paralysis, and I think that's a really good point. Because I think that, you know, just going back to what we were saying about being overwhelmed, if you feel like you've got so many things that you're trying to achieve and you actually end up then achieving nothing in the end because you've got all of these things on your mind, that you know that you need to get done. And I'm certainly guilty of this as well. You know, you have like a giant to-do list of things, and then you get to the end of the day, and you might have achieved maybe one or two of them. In my case, sometimes none. And then the most annoying thing as well is like 2 or 3 in the morning, I'll suddenly get like a bolt of inspiration in my brain and have the will to get up and like do everything. And it's like 3 a.m. and I'm like, should I though? Is that healthy? Or should I just go to sleep? It's just, yeah, that's crazy.
Yeah.
Oh, sorry. Go ahead.
I was going to say, I've written the biggest hits that the world has ever seen, laying there awake at night and not
There you go.
Yeah.
So it's like that song "Tribute" by Tenacious D. You know, like I do that a lot. What were you going to say, Mike?
Oh, I was just going to recognize another comment here from Lizzie, who's one of the hosts of a show called Emo Social Club, which I did for my book also. And she just pointed out how podcasts are great content tools for artists nowadays. Plus, many are so loose and trying to find their niche. Many are open to cold emails and are way more receptive than bigger name ones. And that's the thing too, is that like, as somebody who was an independent journalist, like I never got paid to write. Like my brother and I had to sell ads for our magazine to make money to do what we were doing, but nobody was paying us to write, you know? So like there's way more than 1,000 blogs and websites out there of people who are just doing it because they love to, you know? And that's why I did it. That's why I still do it. I do plenty of like music videos where I don't make a dime. Or like, you know, when I go out on the road with bands, I don't make any money. And I do it because I love it, you know? And that's like, there's going to be, even when people have to grow up like I did and stop doing it for normal and have to, you know, get jobs where they make money, there's still those new 20-year-olds who are doing it, you know, in their spare time just because they love music and want to tell people about the new band they heard about. And like you as a musician or an artist, and those of you who are journalists, nobody is allowed to be snobby about this. None of us, like I worked at Rolling Stone, I worked at Billboard, I still have no authority. Like my opinion is no better than anyone else's, you know? So nobody gets to be snobby. If you're in a band or any kind of artist, no blog is too small for you. No podcast is too small for you. Don't ask how many listeners they have because it doesn't matter. If it's one, that's one more person who's heard about your thing, you know? And like
is everything.
Yeah, like I've had podcasts approach me because they heard me on another podcast. I've had people tell me they bought my book, or I've seen comments on a podcast's Instagram where they had me on, and people write like, I just bought the book because I listened to this. Like, that's great. Like, honestly, I don't even care. I barely make any money off that book. I put the book out because it's a story that I want people to know so they don't feel alone going through what they're going through. So that's important to me. But I just love having conversations like this, you know, especially with the last year and a half we've all had where you couldn't just go to a bar and have these conversations with your friends. Doing podcasts like got me through that, man. Like I love talking about music or whatever. Like I did a game. I was a judge on a YouTube game show. Like which was very cool. It's like a pop culture game show. Explore like all kinds of crazy shit to get out there, man. Like just it doesn't have to be to promote something. Like I'm not here to promote anything. I'm here to talk about music networking and like what I've learned from my journey, you know?
And I think those organic connections as well, like that, and going back to the authenticity, like for me, that's always such a key thing. Like we've invested in, you know, in paid social and ads and stuff like that. And obviously when we were starting out doing that, we really didn't know what we were doing. So at that point we were kind of just sort of throwing money into it and hoping that we'd see results. And you do get sort of tied up in the, you know, in the numbers game side of it. But then I sort of realized as time went by that, you know, those few comments that come through, or you could have 10 people who are really engaged and come back time and time again to watch your, you know, your new content releases, or you could have 100 people who might like one thing and then vanish and disappear. You know, what I would refer to as like a one-time interaction. And don't get me wrong, like we'd still be grateful for it, but it's, you know, you'd rather sort of in the long run have the people who are going to continue to come back and build those genuine sort of networking relationships, you know, with people who care because you have that mutual connection with them.
Yeah. And I think it's great. Like, it's awesome that Jarrett's here because he's been doing this for so long and he didn't have any of this shit in the beginning, you know?
No,
so for the longest time.
Yeah. I mean, the first Bowling for Soup record was on cassette, you know, I mean, and I mean, it's as you said, I mean, we didn't have MapQuest. We had an almanac.
Yeah.
And I mean, an atlas.
Yeah.
Wait, is it an atlas? Yeah. An almanac we didn't need. The weather, you know, I'm such an idiot.
Might have been good to have an almanac because when we went on our first tour, we spent the night in at the Grand Canyon Park.
Mm-hmm.
And we had an old 1970s school bus in the year 2000.
Oh boy.
With no heat. And it was when we saw the USA Today the next day, the lightest blue, which was the coldest spot in the country, was the Grand Canyon.
Yeah.
So we had an almanac. We might have known better than to sleep there.
I think you, for those bands touring still in the world, I think Mike can probably give you some advice on what not to do. Never buy a school bus.
Well, it was given to us for free. So that should have been a big red flag.
Our first vehicle was a snack truck, like, you know, like the big box truck, like a UPS truck, basically. Yeah. And it had a governor on it. It would only go 55 miles an hour. And I mean, it was just a freaking disaster. But you know, so you know, it's funny talking about those things, though. It's like we talk about this all the time. It's like those are the stories we tell are from those things. So let's not forget to tell everybody, man, enjoy what you're doing. You know, don't take all of this and just make it a job, you know, because, you know, at the end of the day, you know, music is therapy and music is fun and music is all of this, but do it because you enjoy it. Because
somebody commented that earlier too. Don't forget that's why.
Yeah, and because let's be honest, quite frankly, 99.9% of the bands out there aren't going to reap the rewards of getting to do this for a career. No. You know, I mean, I don't even do just this for a career. I'm Chuck E. Cheese, for Christ's sake. You know what I mean? Like, it's like you know, it's so enjoy it, you know, and have fun with it. That's the main thing.
I totally agree with that. And being in the moment, because at the end of the day, you never know how long that moment is going to last. And, you know, what a shame it would be later in life to have regrets about that is what I always think.
And you know what, man, the first time, like I write in my book that I still to this day say the biggest heartbreak I ever had was when my first band broke up, because those guys were my best friends from junior high all through high school. And then after high school, when we were living together in Austin and touring together, the best and only friends I had, because we played in the band through high school. So we were our only friends because all we were focused on was the band. And then we broke up and it was kind of an ugly breakup. And I just lost all of my friends that I had. And that was like the biggest heartbreak. And I thought, you know, my dad, I talked to him after it happened, and he said, Mike, you're 22. I was like 21, I think. It's like, you're 21. You have time to start over 100 more times. And he was right. And it's like I said about the Emmy thing. Like, I never would have, like, I always wanted to work in TV and wanted to win an Emmy, but I couldn't even imagine winning an Emmy for that because it didn't exist when I was a kid. And you know, I grew up listening to Hopeless Records bands, and then I got to make a music video for one. So like, I thought I am now part of Hopeless Records history, you know? And I didn't, I thought my life was over when my first band broke up. And I say that because, you know, there's so many musicians in here who, and you said like 99.9% of bands aren't going to reap those rewards, but don't consider it failure. You know, that's why you got to enjoy the moment and the stories that you're going to take from this, because it could just be the first cool thing you did. Like my band was the first cool thing I did. out of many more over the next 20 years that I never imagined I was going to be able to do, you know?
It's such great advice. And you had hit on that earlier when you were talking about skateboarding till you were 22 and then,
Yeah.
and, you know, and all of these things. And that is, you know, I know that we get a lot of young people on this site, and it's part of the reason why I think it's so much fun, because it's fun to see all of the different perspectives and stuff. But, you know, Bowling for Soup got signed when I was 28 years old. You know, I mean, and I already had 2 college degrees and I had already owned 3 businesses, you know,
Wow.
like it's so you and even then we didn't have a hit until I was 31 years old, you know, like, you know, it's so that's just such good advice, and it's what I tell my kids all of the time. It's, you know, even when you know, I have a daughter that's in college, but she's just going to community college because she doesn't know what she wants to do with her life, and that's okay. I mean, like,
Yeah.
if you don't know what you want to do with your life till you're 35, but you're existing and you're happy and you're not a piece of shit, fucking great, enjoy
Yeah.
it. You know,
And I think one of the very first times you and I spoke, Jarrett, actually, you said to me, because I was going through a bit of a mental crisis at the time, and I think I was thinking about how much it sucked that I was getting older, and you basically gave me perspective and were like, dude, like, forget about it. It doesn't matter. Like, if it happens much later in your life, it's never too late to, you know, to get into something. It just isn't.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Like, I never thought I had written screenplays before, but I never thought I was going to write a book. And like, the most successful writing I've done is a book. And like, I never expected that, you know. It's like, people, you have no idea what's going to happen in your life, you know. It's a common theme, I guess, for me, that like, I just put myself out there to do stuff, and crazy shit that like I never even imagined happens, you know. I actually just did a fundraiser at Furnace Fest in Alabama. I did an after party fundraiser for Zero Platoon and the Continuance Foundation, which is a charity that helps provide mental health services to musicians. And Trevor Keith from Face to Face played it. Like, he played an acoustic set, and I fucking love Face to Face. Grew up on Face to Face. They're one of the first punk bands that like got me into this whole world. And he was there at my thing, you know, like, and I thought my life was over when my first band ended 20 years ago, you know?
Yeah. No, I mean, it's that, and again, that's the kind of thing, right? Where you're just, you know, you stick with it and you do those things, and you know, that's the cool thing about life. And it's the cool thing about life. It's cool about where we live right now in time, you know, because quite frankly, you know, our parents, you know, my parents are most of you guys' grandparents. You know, they did get into dead end jobs and just feel like they had to just, you know, I've got to stay at this factory job forever because my family depends on it and all of that. And we have too many opportunities to live a miserable life these days, man.
So we got a question come in. And Daro says, what is a timeless lesson you've learned that you think will always apply to the music industry, no matter what era? That's a good question.
I think we go back to embrace change. You know, you have to be ready for, you gotta be literally ready for anything, you know. I mean, none of the ways that you listen to my music existed whenever we started recording stuff for Bowling for Soup. That's insane. Right.
And I think take advantage of, you know, what's available, whether it's technology, whether it's opportunities, like whatever resources that you have that are out there to be taken advantage of. You know, should be, like you were saying the other day, Jarrett, about, you know, the fact that it's a lot easier now for people to get their covers out there, because these third-party platforms do a lot of the, you know, the footwork.
They do all the accounting for you now. Yeah. It's all done. Mike, you got anything to add to that?
Yeah. It's something that applies to all art. And like, I hear like the Duplass brothers say it when it comes to filmmaking, like, don't wait for someone to do it for you. Like, don't wait for a record label to discover you. Don't wait for, you know, like a Rolling Stone to discover you or anything like that. No matter what era, you gotta get out there and do the work yourself. And you know what? that's the thing. There are benefits from that. Like I said, like that band Sub Radio is just busting their ass. I mean, they've gone on their own independent tours too, and they're on. I don't know how to pronounce the site, but Omegle, is that it? The like chat roulette thing.
Oh yeah.
So it's basically chat roulette. Like you just like hit it, and one person pops up, and they post these on their Instagram, these videos, and a person will pop up, and they'll see Sub Radio with their whole setup. The whole band is set up in their basement, and they play a song for one person.
That's amazing.
That's amazing.
And it blows a person away. Like every time I've seen a video, the person is so shocked, and their music is so good. So that's important too. I think if this band had the right team behind them, they could be the next Maroon 5 in 10 years, or Panic at the Disco. They kind of have that sound. But they're not waiting for that. They're not waiting for the right team. They're out there doing shows. They're out there busting their ass on Reddit and on this site, and like just doing the work,
Well, at the end of the day, it's their brand, and like I always say to, any of my friends in bands as well, it's like, think of it like it is your company, because essentially it's your brand, it's your company. You want to have ownership over that. And no matter what, team you build up over the years, or people that you decide to collaborate with or build partnerships with, ultimately, like, that's your baby, really, in the same way that, a song is your baby, the band is your brand.
Yeah. And that's a lesson I say for myself as much as everybody else too, because I struggle with doing stuff if I don't know it's, something's actually going to come from it right away. But so I need that too. I'm not saying this as like I'm better than anybody, because I struggle with it as much as anybody else.
Well, man, we've kept you long enough.
Like I said, I enjoy it, man. I love it. But
this has been amazing. This is our first go at this. So thank you so much for being a good sport and just incredible information, I think, out there, in this. There's a lot of content here, guys, that everybody needs to absorb. I know I'm taking away some great things.
Thanks for putting this together. Yeah, Danny, you and I have been talking forever, and I'm glad we finally got to do it. I'm glad this came together in this form too, because I think it's super valuable. I'm looking forward to seeing the future episodes and listening to it, because this does apply to everything, whether you're a musician or any kind of artist or even an entrepreneur. This stuff, it's all the same across the board. I've been successful at things I've done because of what I learned being in a band, but it's applied to everything else. And one thing, I'm sorry, let me just say one more important lesson that I only recently learned at 38 years old. Do not look for validation in your day jobs, but have a day job. Like for all my life, I've hated having day jobs because it hasn't been fulfilling to me, because I'm an artist. I've been an artist since I was 14 years old, and that is fulfilling. Creativity and seeing like how people are moved by words you say or music you play, nothing is more fulfilling than that. And then you have to go to a day job and it crushes your soul. But if I didn't I've been at the same job for the last 3 years, where I produce like the shitty lawyer commercials you see on TV for like New York City businesses. So like it's incredibly soul crushing because I don't get to be creative there. But it gave me the money to get my book out. It gave me the time and the, paid time off, vacation time to go out and, promote it places and stuff like that. So like I had to learn that it's okay. Like the job doesn't define you. So like, you don't have to be a struggling, starving artist. You can get a day job and get that money to do the things you need to do with your band. And don't let it crush your soul, because you get to go and play in your band, and that's going to be fulfilling to you. So just see it as a means to an end, and that's something I took way too long to learn. And probably a lot of things I have done creatively have suffered because I didn't want to, work a day job or be in a soul crushing, hellhole. But now I've learned that I can do that and find my fulfillment outside of that. So I just want to pass that along because it took me way too long to learn that.
Again, great advice, man. You are you're like a miniature Buddha covered in hair. No, seriously, man. That's I think all of us can apply that to different areas, as to, you basically, you got to take care of your shit to be able to go and do awesome shit.
Yeah.
Exactly. That's the fuel to being able to do what you love. Totally agree. And it makes it all worth it because you get to do something at the end of it that's awesome.
Very cool. Well, this has been awesome. And, we'll do it again.
Can I tell people where to find me out there?
Absolutely. Online? That's next. Plugs. Let's go.
All right. So I am Mikey Lee Rock on Instagram. I don't use Twitter much. But yeah, and my Mikey Lee Rock, MIKEYLEEROCK. And my company is A Burger Joint. It's my production company and what I released the book through. That's ABERGERJOINT. So yeah, you can find stuff there. I'm hopefully going to be doing some book tour events through the next year, talking to some artists about going out on the road with me and doing acoustic sets at these book events. But yeah, and check out Zero Platoon because there's some cool videos on there. Yeah, that's what I got going on.
Love it.
Awesome, man.
Thanks.
Follow me everywhere JARET2113. Danny?
And I'm Dan Freeman on Facebook. And otherwise you can find me at Danny Had a Few Too Many on Instagram.
Yay!
Hey!
Thanks, guys.
We did the plugs. Hooray.
Thanks so much.
Awesome. No, this has been really, really cool. And definitely looking forward to keeping it rolling. But thank you so much for joining us today, Mike. It's been awesome.
Hopefully we'll all cross paths in real life someday.
I hope so, man. I really do.
All right, guys. See ya.
Time to go to soccer. See you all later.
Have fun, everybody, and we'll catch you next month. Cheers, guys.